Good afternoon to everyone. Good to see a few people entering in. We have obviously quite a bit of interest in today's topic. Just give you a couple of minutes so other people can join in to see what we're talking about today. Today's conversation being on Latin America. Here in SCN, we've had a little bit of a focus on Latin America in the last few years, just to see how we can interact the members in Latin America with other parts of the world, and wanted to continue to see how it's growing or not, and what the situation is. And that's the objective of today's conversation. I'm, of course, an expert on Latin America, thanks mainly not to my knowledge, but to my little cheat sheet here. Let me have a quick share this with you. I know what's happening in Latin America. You, me, and everyone can just check, is it a growing region? And you can just check quickly to see which countries are notable. And everyone knows exactly about it there. Mexico, Brazil, Colombia. Maybe you should do this yourself for certain places. But of course, what we are trying to do here is not saying if Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and certain other countries are growing, but we want to have a very much a boots on the ground, a specific people who are in the markets giving their impression and their opinion of what is happening, and see where we go from there. So without further ado, let me present the three people which we have with us today to give this conversation. Here we have a fine example of three of our members in Latin America, chosen for distinct areas of Latin America as well. Also leads us to believe, why do we need Botox when we have artificial intelligence to improve these photos? But anyway, no, seriously. Thanks very much for Enrique Campos from Seville to join us from Brazil, Lex from Enlace, Honduras, and Alfredo in Mexico, Montelog, Mexico, who are going to give us a little bit of information and their points of view on the situation in the market at the moment, where it's growing, and what we see is relevant for freight forwarders of SCN and whatever. Yes. So without further ado, let me pass the microphone over to Lex. Lex, Enlace, how's it going in Honduras? How is Latin America, and what are you seeing as the tendencies at the moment?
Morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your attendance today. Glad to see a lot of people are interested in our market and the situation. I guess Latin America is a growing region for logistics, and because of manufacturing that's going on, after COVID, everything just changed. Everything was centralized in China before, or Asia, and now it's distributed all over the world. More evenly than it used to be. So Latin America is one of those regions who, because of the nearshoring to the United States, which is the world's largest consumer of goods, our region is growing rapidly. Unfortunately, there are some challenges in our regions, mostly because of our high taxes for imports, complicated customs processes, and some other internal logistic challenges. For Honduras, political instability, we're restarting now with a new government. I think it happens the same with almost all countries in Latin America, but it is what it is, and that's why we're here, because we need to work out a solution around those issues, whatever they may be.
Okay, thanks, Lex, for some initial words there. Just in case you have some questions, we will be, of course, opening a bit of a conversation later. So if you could add them in the chat or the question and answer section would be the best way to do it. If you're able to add that, would be great. And so we can then get to those questions afterwards in that case. But let me pass the microphone over to Enrique down in Brazil. Are you happy, Enrique?
Hello, my friends.
Enrique,
I Mexico for the really good game.
Thank you.
Yesterday.
Good. So Enrique, would you say Brazil is also in a positive situation at the moment, prospering, or would you say, or how is it going?
Yes. I can say that right now I'm in Peru because this is our work. I'm in a hotel room, so you can see that I'm not in my office. So this is part of our job, to stay traveling from each country of South America and Latin America to the other, to give more opportunities for all markets to work with us. The reason of this meeting is to try to make you guys know more about what we are doing here and how is the situation. I think the situation right now is really positive, because after the Trump tariffs, everything is going better. Market possibilities for growing things.
Let's have some words also from Alfredo. So mentioning nearshoring and the issues there.
What is happening about your country and Brazil? What kind of cargoes is going to Brazil or from Brazil?
So you have details of standard or general market rates of ocean freight rates, you mean, or what?
It's not just me. This is a system that is open in Brazil. I know that, of course, not every country have that, but we have. Okay. So this is legal, okay? We have something that we can see what is happening in other countries to Brazil or from Brazil to other countries. So if you want to know more, just ask me.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Okay. So remember, any of your questions, just note them down yourselves, or in the Q&A section, we'll get them later. But please, let's have a bit of a deeper dig into the situation with Alfredo. You should be able to share your screen, Alfredo. There is that possible, or did you need me to do it?
You wanna share it?
Well, you can share it yourself. You share it yourself. It may be easier for you to move backwards and forwards in that case. Then, yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I would like to only, show some slides, not to, I don't want to bore you with this, but just outline certain things. Definitely, Latin America is growing as a region, 2.2% expected growth for this year, which is good, but I know other regions are growing faster. As far as Mexico is concerned, despite a lot of uncertainties we have suffered in the last 2 years with the tariff situation and the uncertainties of what the U.S. government has pushed and setbacks Trump has had about certain tariff. You are all aware that there's been some kind of problems with the court as far as tariffs imposed in the past, and they have to pay back a lot of importers a lot of money because this was not accepted. But still, as far as Mexico, we are negotiating the U.S. trade agreement as of today. The official negotiations start. There have been a lot of conversations. But in Mexico, we still have a good foreign direct investment, $40 billion expected this year, which is very encouraging. And let me show you. And, despite some macroeconomic, as I mentioned before, as you can see, the Iran conflict drives Brent prices up. We have seen lately some little bit fuel prices going down, but still an issue. And also, this is just to outline nearshoring as far as Mexico, Canada, and US is still alive, is more important than ever. Let me show you some numbers. 7.4% of US imports growth this year alone. We didn't expect that to happen. And as you can see below in my chart, there's a lot of investments in the automotive business. GM, Ford, BMW, Toyota, Audi, and Kia have announced expansions in the plants they already have in Mexico, moving more into the electric vehicles and lithium batteries. And we also have encouraging investments in the aerospace business in Querétaro, which is north of Mexico City, and in the north, Baja California, near San Diego. Companies like Bombardier, Safran, Honeywell are committed to keep investing in Mexico. And in Guadalajara, which we call the Silicon Valley of Mexico, companies like Intel, IBM, Oracle are also investing. So this is very encouraging because we have a lot of uncertainties about some of these investments going back to the US, but fortunately, they keep, of course, they are building plants in the U.S. Mercedes-Benz just announced a huge investment in Alabama, but still in Mexico is a very encouraging market. I think what I want to stress here is the transit times. As you can see, not only over the road, we can make from mid-Mexico to the Midwest in the U.S. 4 or 5 days, as well as the railway, maybe a little bit longer. But compared with traffic from China or Asia, it takes weeks. So I think that has an advantage as a region that we can supply the U.S. market in a very quick way and very efficient way. And I would like to stress also that the hurdle we have as a country is the infrastructure. Electric supply for all this industry growth is a challenge for Mexico, and still some problems that we have to face. But the message that I want to convey here is that we are going through a very encouraging situation as a region. And of course, with Central America, we also have a lot of opportunities. We ship a lot of business from Mexico as a company to Guatemala, Honduras, over the road. And we make 4 or 5 days transit time compared with the ocean freight. So this is another opportunity that we have. Let me see. I would like to pass so Enrique can talk about the Mercosur Europe. He mentioned something before. If you want to comment on some of these, Enrique, that would be great.
Thank you. I think that everyone here, maybe not everyone, but Mercosur in Europe, they have an agreement last year about free taxes. It's something like we are already having inside of the Mercosur, so we will not pay taxes of products from Europe. This is not something that is clear how many you have to pay or not, but this is a clear opportunity to grow the market. What I was talking after this meeting, I was talking with a guy from England, like David, that we will lose the next game for Mexico. But this guy was talking to me and asking about the market of fishes from Brazil that was closed in Europe. I don't know if you know that, but we just can export fishes from Brazil to Asia or to United States. So when Trump closed it, we cannot send that to Europe. This is opening right now. So this is another opportunity to explore because of this agreement, Mercosur, Europe. So this could be a really good opportunity for us that we are here to say that for our customers, that could be an opportunity to your sales team to work with that information and try to develop before the other freight forwarders, because the information is good to start running before. So if you know that, you can talk to your customers that used to work with foods from Mercosur and Europe. This is a good opportunity. You can continue, my friend.
Yes, and another thing is going back to the, I don't want to dwell too much into a lot of details, but we have some issues to correct as far as warehousing and transportation capability in order to take advantage of the US and Canada market. Specialized talent is an issue every day, although the artificial intelligence is taking a lot of huge role in every field. We still believe that we need a lot of maybe this is not for Mexico, but in general as a region, to include for certain industries to have a specialized people in order to support the growth of these companies into Mexico. And regarding the negotiation back to the U.S. Mexico Canada agreement, I don't know if you're aware, but today the rules of origin for automotive business is that they have to comply with 62.5% of regional content, and this is going to increase to 75%. The higher RBS threshold is demanded also in electronic business, and of course there's some pressure to exclude Chinese origin components. This is basically a thing, and we have a new blanket U.S. import tariff across the board of 10%. The last thing, I don't want to dwell too much on this, but this is maybe you're aware, as far as Mexico, we are in certain situations with the security that the companies have to invest more in security, escort certain loads in certain states. We as a company have been able to have a very good performance in this area, and I want to be always positive. Despite this insecurity situation, there's a lot of ways to come up with good results as far as protocols with customers and different methods. Of course, there's some kinds of investment required, but we need to face, maybe as a region altogether, the insecurity in a different way than before, because this is unfortunately a situation. I don't want to know if you want to talk to also about this, Enrique or Lex, about these things of Shanghai Megaport. This is a very important event that's coming up.
Yes, I think it's very important for us to talk about this because, in the northern region of America, we have a lot of main ports or hubs, like Long Beach, for example. It's one of the main hubs. Mexico has some very strong ports in the Pacific Ocean. In the Central American region, we have Panama as well. And in South America, Costco is investing strongly in the Shanghai port. This will be used as a hub for the South American Pacific region. Hopefully they reduce some rates. That would be good for all of us, so we can increase our profit margins a little bit. That wouldn't be so bad. And we all know that there's sometimes problems with the transit in Panama, through Panama. So there's a bioceanic railway connector that's a project between Brazil and Peru. So basically they want to connect by rail, Peru and Brazil, so you can route all the transit there. It's going to save around 10 days of transit. So it's going to be faster. Hopefully it's going to be a cheaper option than, to just go around Panama. And it's going to be hopefully less carbon footprint because you don't have to operate a full vessel just to get those containers over to the Atlantic side of things. As our colleague, our winner from yesterday from Mexico, Alfredo, was saying, we need to invest a lot in security. Us as Enlace are also getting our certifications in ISO and supply chain management so we can deal with these issues for customs and tariffs much better than with the rest of our competitors.
Thank you, Lex.
Enrique, maybe you could add something to that on that. And also, sorry, just I'm not too aware of when these projects will be operative. Is that shortly? What's the date put on these?
I can talk about that.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so what's happening? I'm here in Peru, and I was in Shanghai 3 days before just to see the operation, because this is a Chinese port. This is all from Costco. So this is something that the government from Peru and the government from Brazil, they have to develop this railway, and I think this will just work in maybe 1 year or more. But this is a good thing to know about the future, and Lex talked really good about that. So all the technical information Lex just gave us. So, but I think this will not work in less than 1 year, because you can think that we have to build some railway to cut all the Amazonia. So this is difficult. This is expensive. Okay, we have Chinese investors here doing that, but it will take a little bit. But this will be a really good opportunity for the future, for sure.
Okay. Certainly. Interesting stuff. Alfredo, please.
Okay, let me continue. We like to concentrate on of course, we need to talk about something that already Lex mentioned, the green logistics and decarbonization is either in road transport, in ocean freight, on air cargo. There has to be some actions and some compliance. Maybe you heard that Maersk deployed the heavy electric Volvo trucks in 14 Latin American countries as of this year, and geared to reduce up to 15% fuel consumption. And there's some other interesting news in ocean freight: growing adoption of LNG, methanol, and ammonia, compliance with IMO carbon intensity indicators. So this is something that's a fact. I am subject, and maybe you are as well, in many bids that I compete with. I have to come up with certain type of proposals regarding some companies like Bayersdorf, a German company makes Nivea cream, force me, as well as Unilever, to at least 20% of the freight that I come up with has to be with lower emissions, using intermodal services when possible, or railway. And despite the transit times or any other things, this is now becoming a restriction in many bids. I'm sure you have similar experiences in your countries as far as this is, which is becoming very important for everybody. So I just want to stress that point. And I'm going to some specific ideas that maybe we can discuss as an alliance of SCN agencies, some ideas that we have to maybe work together to compete with the big guys, consolidate freight via SCN service search, coordinate either LCL, LTL, and weekly air consolidations among members, control end-to-end costs, and eliminate the hidden surcharges and a destination, which many customers are always worried about, and capitalize on the Callao Chancay that Enrique and Lex already mentioned. And the certification is very important. Now we have this AEO, which is the equivalent to the CityPath as in some countries like in Mexico. If we have that for especially our customers, they are allowed to go through lanes much faster than others, and they are allowed to they have a lot of benefits. So if you can encourage all your customers, including yourselves, to be able to get those certifications, this is becoming very important, especially with the border situation with the U.S.-Mexico, which is every day enforcing more, surveys, and because of the drug trafficking situation that you are aware of, being certified allows you to have a specific privilege. So this is very important. And two more things: strengthen the digital visibility and risk control is important. Carrier identity audits, satellite tracking, anti-jamming detection, safe stop protocols, and use of bonded warehouse when possible, especially in border crossing points, and the decarbonization metrics, and as I mentioned before. And to start the discussion, I would like to just focus on some takeaways. Hopefully this has been clear and we can share this presentation, as David said, but only outlined as a conclusion: nearshoring in Mexico is irreversible. The key gonna be to execute this well. Secure warehouses, get certified, go digital, have good partners in all these countries. The Mercosur deal, which is going to be live in May this year, opens a new Atlantic corridor. Our agencies must be ready to handle the surge in Europe, Latin American freight, and the Chancay redefines South Pacific whenever it's going to be ready. And cargo security is going to be a competitive advantage, not merely a cost. And as I mentioned, CityPath and digital visibility are non-negotiable, are going to be a factor. And last, the decarbonization is already a commercial requirement. Those not reporting emissions will lose contracts. So basically, from here, I would like to open as David said, the discussion. This is I'm very happy to be sharing with all of you, and I'm sure you have a lot of interesting things to comment. So if you want, David, I can I can
Yeah,
pass
sure.
you
Well,
the.
let's just see if we can have a few questions from the audience. But let's just ignore Enrique Campos' hand for a moment. If there are any questions from you in the audience, please either write them down in the questions and answer section, or if you just raise your hand, there's a raise hand section there which you can put up there. So if there's any questions at the moment, please let us know, and we'll move on to them. If not, I've got a few questions myself. But before then, Ricardo Trios, there's a hand raised there. Let's take notice of him. Ricardo, any questions for you?
Yes, hi guys. I really appreciate it. The
Ricky,
presentations
hi.
are very good. I just want one question. Very specifically, what do you guys think? Because our friends are in Mexico, Lex, of course, right next to us here in Nicaragua, Honduras, and Brazil. What do you guys think about the most challenges topic is regarding the carriers? And because I see the statistics, I see the numbers, I see that everything's growing, but at the end, the negotiation that we need to deal with the carriers, what do you think is the most challenging thing that we need to do or to do together as a logistics company?
You're going to take that on. Lex, maybe?
I think at least we have experienced this. I'm pretty sure many of you have. We have a big issue, especially with huge companies like DHL Global, Cunan Idol, DSV. They use their volume power to negotiate by regions, and that has directly affected us when negotiating with other large customers that we want to have as our customers. So I think it would be a good idea, maybe with the network, we can try to work some deals by region for all our members so we can get better rates as a network. That's something that has been in my mind for a couple of years now, and it's something that might help us. Our volume together might not equal those big guys, but it will certainly be attractive for the shipping lines and carriers to be able to provide us with much better rates so we can compete on even ground.
So you're saying that the larger forwarders, they've always been involved with larger exporters, whatever, but they are growing in their percentage and they're going to smaller and smaller shippers all the time, and that's affecting your market share, you would say?
That's correct.
And I don't know, it's a question of seeing how exactly we can band together to get some sort of negotiation together. That's not an easy thing to do, but certainly we can open some conversations on that level, I think, yes? Alfredo, maybe you have something to add there.
Yeah, I think that's, Ricardo, is a very interesting question that you raised. I don't know if you have come across situations where a customer requires an air freight quote in the morning, and you have to get a response from your agent in Europe or Asia. And when you come up with a rate the next day, they have already got a rate from Kuehne+Nagel or from, as you said, DHL, and we lose the business. So maybe it's very complicated, but if we can develop a way to have a shared rate environment within certain lanes, so we can compete with that, because that's for me that's very difficult, because sometimes the customer told me the following day, Alfredo, your rate is better than the one I got yesterday, but you got 1 day later or 2 days later, and if I ask you for an air freight rate, it's because it's urgent. So I don't know, as a group, if we can come up with some ideas of how to expedite the rates when we need it, especially from agents in a different time zone in the world.
It's a problem which is complex. So we'll get to you, Enrique. Just we haven't looked at this in the past, and part of the problem is if we set up certain situations where we're sharing rates. If it's like Honduras, it's, should we say, a little bit easier because there's not other agents looking into that, but there's always be a little bit more scared about the internal competition within a network like ours, instead of sort of looking at the real concern, which is the larger companies which are outside, which are the real threat. So people are not as likely to want to share their rates in a certain way. No one wants to play with all of their cards open on the table. But of course, as you say, with some sort of collaboration, that is necessary. We are looking at this moment into FMC licensed members sharing their rates for shipments to and from the USA. That's something which we are announcing shortly, and from there we're seeing how that can grow from there in that case. And so certainly I can mention that a little bit more later on in that case to see if there are people who are moving to the States, because I'm seeing, of this general conversation we're having here, I'm noticing that, for example, Alfredo seems to be commenting much more the nearshoring, which is having a bigger effect on the Mexican economy, which I'm sure is the case, and I imagine in your company as well. Enrique seems to be a little bit more nuanced in terms of, yes, there's situations changing for the USA, but also Mercosur has affected and grown the market from Brazil and Europe and whatever. Maybe I don't know. We are looking first at the US market because of the large size of the market there, in terms of which of the FMC people with licenses there, and that might help in that case. But it's difficult to get things together, to be honest with you. Not just the program for it, that's quite relatively easy, but once we have the program to share rates, do you want to share your rates on a platform which you can see everybody else's rates? You want to see other people's rates in other countries, but not kind of share your rates to other people. So that's a bit of a tricky situation. Sorry, Enrique, I've been ignoring you. Please.
Yes.
What are you saying?
I have another idea. Is because when I knew Enrique Montaña de Caja del Plata in Cartagena for 4 years ago, I think, in the SCN meeting in Cartagena, 3 or 4 years ago, we were not working together. So what we did, just to give an example, to Ricardo, is that I gave all my shipments from Argentina to Brazil to Enrique. Enrique, give me your shipments. 1 week ago, I was with the directors of CMA in Argentina with Enrique, negotiating direct rates like I'm Kuehne+Nagel. So right now, we are number 2 freight forwarder in number of TEUs from Argentina to Brazil. So it's possible to win this game. If we work together and if we think about something different, and not just try to compete against the freight from China and think about, okay, I will lose to Kuehne+Nagel, and think together how we can do that, like David was saying, this FMC situation. But more than that, if we talk with each other, like SCN members, that here is an exclusive group, so we can share information and think how we can fight against those big guys.
I agree, but I think there's always a bit of an issue with the collaboration here is everyone is waiting for everybody else. So, for example, it worked perfectly between Hevil and Cargas del Plata, for example, between Argentina and Brazil. But most of the time people say, yes, I've got some shipments for Brazil. What have you got for Germany or Spain or whatever? And everyone is kind of waiting for the first few shipments to go. And we have to sometimes act with a little bit more confidence, like you did there with Cargas del Plata, and the fruit of that confidence is the genuine sharing of the merchandise and the traffic and the development which can happen from there. But I think sometimes we are a little bit too cautious about taking a step forward to collaborate, I would say, within the network.
I totally agree. This is something just to develop.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, the question is from Robert Krieger as well. Robert, please.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. First thing, Enrique, we used to handle a lot of footwear coming up from Brazil into the United States, and when China became very, very cheap with making shoes, that ended. And we could give you leads or you can give us information about where shoe production is starting. We can share that with our customers.
So I guess the question is, how real is nearshoring? Everyone's talking about it, but is it actually happening, and are there changes of plans or whatever? Yeah?
Yes, I got it. As I was saying before, I have this system, or everyone in Brazil has this system that I can see what is happening about this kind of business or other kind. What I would say for you, Robert, like for the others, is just talk to me in privately, and then we can share all the information. Yeah. I have this, but I don't have this right now. But it's possible to know. I can say you that this is happening more in the north of Brazil, but I will share you more information after. And of course, this is really interesting.
I've been to some factories in the south. That was a number of years ago, and the system of transportation was very primitive at that point, but hopefully it's improved. David, if I might, one other comment. President Trump issued an executive order about a month ago to importers and to customs brokers, and it's likely that amongst other things of high tariffs from certain places and so forth, the security issue is going to become very, very important. So we're talking about mainly CTPAT, and I'm just wondering how our brothers in Latin America and sisters in Latin America are reacting to this by looking at CTPAT and cargo security, because that's going to be coming in the next few months. I can't say exactly when, and possibly, David, you might want to have a meeting talking about CTPAT for people who are trying to export to the United States.
Yep, we can look into that as well. Certainly, Lex, you had your hands raised there.
Yes. Robert, how are you doing? So we don't have CTPAT as CTPAT here in most countries in Latin America, but we do have authorized economic operators as well, which is also accepted by CTPAT. So they're equivalent. Okay. So most companies, we get our certifications for authorized economic operator. This not only helps with our customs locally, but it also helps link with security with the United States. So I'm pretty sure you have that in Mexico, Alfredo. I know for sure that Guatemala has authorized economic operator. We have authorized economic operator.
And Europe too as well has it as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Situation here. So I believe that's, I mean, what we can do as a network, we will start to indicate which members are AEO or CTPAT or something of that nature. We are changing our website at this very moment in time, taking a bit more time than we hoped, but we'll be able to flag those members so you'll be able to correctly work with members who are AEO. Because what I understand the situation is in that case, then you can import from agents who are not AEO, but in that case, there is more likelihood of customs inspections and problems when merchandise arrives in the States. Is that correct, Robert? Or will it be a total ban on non-AEO or CTPAT registered companies?
Well, if there's a reciprocal agreement between U.S. Customs and the agencies authorizing this in the reciprocal countries, that'd be great. But it's now part of our agency questionnaire as to whether somebody is CTPAT, because we can anticipate increased cargo security through CTPAT coming up in the next few months. We don't know at what level our clients will insist on that. Large companies will probably insist on that earlier than the smaller companies, but it's going to be tougher to ship to the United States. Let's just say that in all respects, tariffs, transshipments, and things of that nature. There's something I saw the other day that says that Customs has the ability to track a shipment from its origin. Say it's coming from China and it's going to Brazil and then it's coming to the United States. So they're announcing that they're going to do stuff, but they haven't put out the specifics. And we expect specifics to come out in the next few months, and they're going to be tough.
Yeah, regarding that issue, Robert, as you know, CTPAT started after the events of September 11 many years ago. So this has been an ongoing thing for years. And we currently have a situation where most carriers that we deal with going from Mexico to the US don't they don't go they cannot load in any customer that has not CTPAT. I have cases where a small customer wants to ship to the US and I use X carrier and they said no, I cannot go there because so it's becoming a more common thing, as you said, is mandatory. And as Lex said, we have also what's called OEA, which is the equivalent of CTPAT in other countries that is allowed in the US as well. And some companies have both certifications. I believe that is where the market is going to have CTPAT and OEA. And this is mandatory, as you said. And as an agent, as a forwarder myself, I tried to get CTPAT many years ago. And as I don't have facilities, I don't have physical, I don't know, own trucks. I don't know, it was not possible. But what I do is I only work with CTPAT certified carriers, and I think that's the name of the game today.
You are correct, Alfredo. On our Mexican border warehouses, most of our clients are CTPAT, and therefore they're eligible, and they use CTPAT approved trucking companies, and so they're eligible to use a fast lane to get goods from Mexico into the United States. So that's a clear advantage, but I think it's now understated what that advantage will be in the near future. I can't guess, but I've been to Washington on a couple trade missions, meeting with people in customs and Congress, and there's an overall decision in the United States to increase cargo security, country of origin, and so forth. And we've seen recently improvements along the Mexican border, but we're anxiously awaiting what Customs will put out. And I hope, David, you will have a meeting to discuss that for anybody interested in shipping to the U.S. We can move faster and better than the big companies in this area, our big competitors, much, much faster and much better in quality. So that's an advantage that we will have over the big guys.
I did want to just ask you as well, because while we're talking about the USA, which is obviously a very important market, especially for Latin America, and as I say, like Alfredo was mentioning nearshoring. Enrique, you were talking also about changes with the Mercosur agreement with Europe. Where are you seeing as a company, not so much the country, but the company itself, growth and changes? I mean, are you receiving more shipments to and from Europe in the past? Is USA also growing? What is shrinking in retrospect? How are you seeing the movement at the moment?
And because of that, like I'm IATA number 5 of Brazil, and it's going to say for us, if that is possible, because if I'm not in the United States like an agent, I'm losing shipments because they are not feeling that this is secure. More than that, about the shipments for Europe, this of course is going to increase a lot. This has been increased for us because of the tariff situation, but not that much that it will be in the future because of the agreement. So what we did is like we were exporting to USA, we start to export to another place. But the market right now is really, really, really hot about food to anywhere. This is something that could be an opportunity for us.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. We've been hearing from 3 of our members, of course, in Latin Honduras, Multilog in Mexico, and Evil in Brazil. What about other members which we have here in the audience from other Latin American countries? Is anybody wanting to take the mic and explain what they're seeing in terms of movement at the moment and growth or anything like that? What I did want to mention briefly to you, let me just share this. We are, as I say, looking towards rate situations specifically for USA, and then maybe looking from there. I'm not too sure how well informed you are of these people, NCBFAA, which is far too many letters for any organization, I believe. But anyway, National Customs Broker Forwarders Association of America. They are currently looking to expand their membership. It is an association of, I think, something like 1,400 brokers and customs and freight forwarders in the USA. They're currently looking to expand their membership to other members, and they've chosen 2 networks, of which these guys here, SCN, are one of the members, to be associate members, which is a way which we can connect up with US freight forwarders. So if you are interested in that, certainly get back to me. And we'll be starting a program of those of you who have FMC licenses to be able to get rates, ocean freight rates initially, from your countries to the USA, to be able to offer to US freight forwarders a bit of a better situation. So that's a little bit embryonic at the moment. It's not currently functioning, but we are looking for it. What you basically do is this is a separate organization. So they're going to send you lots of emails about movements of customs duties in the USA, which frankly aren't that interesting. It's better you ask your agent in the USA. But what they have is like an associate member section, and so you can basically register for this. As I say, not so much visibility yet, but we are getting there. And so you can like sort of look down the different countries, and of the countries there, it informs which are SCN members, which are not. And so there's other people who are not SCN members, anything like that. But we are one of the networks who is chosen by them to screen in the members of the associate members into NCBFAA. So maybe a possibility for you there. And once we get that involved, we'll be checking again FMC licenses to see if we can get some rates flowing there and onwards to US companies. I don't know if anybody from the States is interested in that sort of service to be able to have freight rates with FMC license companies. I'm guessing that would be good for you. Is that correct, Robert, or anybody else from the States? We're talking about rate sharing and things like that earlier, so that is something which will be, I think, positive in that case. There's not many members in this yet, considering the number of US members. There's only a handful of international members, but it's like one of the screening things in, and then we'll start to get some more activity after that in that case. Interested? Let us know. We'll put you in contact with the right people in that case, okay?
That's interesting. Thank you, David. Okay.
So, okay, right. Okay. Any more questions from the audience? Certainly a very interesting session. Certainly what we wanted to do with this session was spark some interest once more in Latin America, which is a region which is, everyone has their eye on it for growth, although we also want some stability as well, and we need to see what is happening there. We wanted to give some visibility to some of our partners in the region. We want to continue talking about different regions, and so we'll be talking about having other sessions on different regions around the world as well, so look out for some of those, so we can continue in open conversation with all of you. That is the idea there in that case. So certainly look out for that. We do have another side meeting coming up in a couple of weeks' time, where we'll be visited by somebody discussing marketing techniques for freight forwarders. Jamil is, of course, our Dubai director, so he's almost asleep there in Dubai. So thank you for staying awake for us.
So we will have a lady by the name of Vidya, who's an expert in supply chain, who will talk us through how we can increase freight. The common problem with freight forwarders is price. Everybody talks about price, and she's going to walk us through and give us tips on how we can get bigger clients, more clients, without having to spend a lot on marketing and not depending on price. So this will be on the 15th of July, and we will be in touch with you.
Yep.
Okay.
Watch out for that. So we'll let them.
Sounds great.
Very interesting concerning there. I think marketing is an issue which I think we all need to speak about a little bit, because everyone's sick of emails, especially from SCN. Especially from other people. And LinkedIn and whatever used to be a little bit more useful. Now I think more and more people are tiring of them. So certainly it's good to make sure we can have some other routes in that case. So So yes, watch out for that one. In a couple of weeks' time, we're having that, and then we'll be having some more conversations in a run-up, in a sense, to our conference in Manila, which is at the end of October. I know some of you have still not registered for it. That's crazy. Why did you register? Yeah, do it. I know it's a long trip, but there's a lot of people there, so it's a great place. So stop that mad behavior and get registered up as soon as possible. And there's a lot of people already registered, so thanks for that. And looking forward to see you all there in that case then. But much more important than any conference is we don't want to take up your whole day here. Nothing to do with the football, which is starting in 4 or 5 minutes. But we are very thankful for your time, especially our three speakers: Enrique Campos from Evil Brazil, Alfredo Carrillo from Multilog in Mexico, and Lex Perez from Enlace Honduras. If you have any conversations, any questions to them, please reach out to them. You can find the details, of course, on the SCN website. We will be sending out to all attendees a copy of the presentation which was done, as well as there's a text of this meeting as well, so we'll be able to listen to that. Sorry, read that. And so thank you very much once more for your time.
Yes.
And we'll see you in the World Cup final, Enrique.
Thank you, David, for setting up this.
Sorry,
nice meeting.
I'm completely neutral. Sorry, I was.
Good luck today, David. Good luck with.
Thank you, Alfredo.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank you,
day.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.